Hello students. In our last lecture we have already studied about statistics, what it is, how it can be used, and what are different types of statistics, what are measures of center and measures of central tendency we have already studied. Now coming on to the next topic, which is again of very important concept used in case of data analytics and for analyzing of data, that is probability. So in today's lecture we would be discussing about probabilities and its terminologies, and we will also see what is probability distribution function. So we'll start with the basic definition of probability, which says probability is a mathematical method used for statistical analysis. So anything if we want to use for analysis statistically or for statistical analysis of sample or population, we can use this mathematical method. We can also say that probability and statistics are interrelated branch of mathematics and will go hand in hand, because everything we need, whatever we analyze, whatever we do, and whenever we do analysis of data, we need to represent it properly, and for that we would be using statistics and probability, because representation also matters a lot. Whatever you have concluded with your analysis, that has to be represented properly. So for that purpose we use probability in statistics. So what probability says, you must have studied in your previous classes or in your higher secondary. What probability is, it is desired outcome upon total outcome. This is the basic formula which we have studied from our school days only. Coming on to the example, for example, if we roll a dice, what are the 6 possible outcomes we may be getting after rolling a dice? Obviously dice has numbers 1 to 6, so we may get 1, we may get 2, so in all there are 6 possible outcomes which we get. Each possibility has one outcome. So it is possible that we may get 1, it is possible that we may get 2, and so on. So if we say what is the probability of getting 3, it is 1 out of 6, because only one time 3 is written once on your dice, so the probability will be 1 out of 6. What are the different terminologies used in probability? We have 2 basic terminologies, which is random experiment and sample size. So what random experiment says is, it is an experiment or process for which the outcome cannot be predicted with certainty. That is, we can't say that this would be the outcome of the process or this would be the outcome of the result. For example, if I have appeared in my exams, though my exams have gone very well, I have done all my attempted all the questions properly, but I can't say that I would be getting good marks or topmost marks or highest marks in my exams, right? So random experiment is something like the output which we can't predict or which can't be predicted with certainty. Sample space is the entire possible set of outcomes of a random experiment, and it is denoted by S. So what sample space is? Sample space is the entire outcomes, whatever the outcomes can be of that particular experiment or the process, that is the sample space. Now if I want to find the probability of appearing 3 with a random experiment, so I am using the random experiment and I need to find the probability of appearing 3. The number of possibilities are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what is this? This is the sample space, because the total outcome for after rolling the dice will be 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the sample space, that is the total, and the probability of appearing 3 will be a random experiment, because the outcome I will be getting, that is not certain. If I throw a dice, I can't say that I will be getting 3 only. I may get 1, I may get 2, and may get 4. Then getting 3 is not a certain output. So that would be a random experiment, and yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will be a sample space, because sample space indicates the total number of outcomes you can get. Coming on to events. One or more outcomes of an experiment is known as events. So for example, I will be getting a probability of getting 3. Now in this case, if I am throwing a dice, I am getting 3, that is one outcome I may get. I may get 4, that is another outcome. So event will show one or more outcomes of an event. of an experiment. If I am performing an experiment, I may get one outcome, I may get many two outcomes, and so on. So events are nothing but the outcomes of an experiment. Basically, we have two types of events, that are disjoint sets and non-disjoint sets. So let's see what are disjoint and non-disjoint sets. Disjoint sets are the sets that do not have common outcomes. So any sets which do not have common outcomes are known as disjoint set. For example, if I am drawing a card from a card deck, then that card can be queen, can be king, can be a joker, can be a 10 number, can be a 8 number, but it is not possible that the card I have drawn a single card, and it play the role of a queen also and a king also? No. Either a queen will be picked, or a king will be picked, or any random number will be picked, right? So at a time the card can't play the role of both the characters. So this is disjoint sets, and non-disjoint sets are those sets which have some common outcomes, like shown in figure. A and B are the two sets which are having some common outcomes. For example, a student can get 100 marks in maths and 100 marks in science also. It is not necessary if the student have appeared and he can't get the same marks in two subjects. He may get the same marks in two subjects. So this is the example of the non-disjoint sets. Coming on to probability distribution function, which are broadly classified as probability density function, normal distribution, and central limit theorem. What probability density function tells us? Probability density function is basically concerned with related likelihood for a continuous random variable to take on a given value. It is basically a probability of a variable that lies between A and B. As shown in figure, whatever the portion is lying between the red marked area, that is the probability distribution function, and it is basically the area which is covered from particular given variables. That is, if I need to calculate two variables A and B, the area between A and B is basically probability density function. Coming on to the normal distribution, it is also known as Gaussian distribution, which has to be noted because it is not normally asked what is Gaussian distribution and people get confused with it. The idea behind is that the data near the mean occurs more frequently than the data away from the mean. So whatever data is near to the mean, that is frequently occurring if we compare it with the away from the mean. The data around the mean can represent entire data sets. Normal distribution curve occurs like a bell curve as shown in figure. So whenever we need to represent normal distribution, it will occur like a bell curve. Normal distribution are always center on the average value. Just by looking the graph, we can conclude the highest probability. So ultimately, if we are representing a data by using normal distribution, it will be a bell-like curve, and by just considering or by just viewing the particular graph, we can conclude what would be the highest probability. Now, what are the factors which affects normal distribution? There are basically two factors, which is mean and the standard deviation, which we have already studied. Mean tells us where center of the curve goes. It determines the center of the curve, and standard deviation determines the height of the graph. Now if we increase the curve, or we increase the width, the height will be shortened, and vice versa, we all know, which ultimately represents the small deviation value and large deviation value. If the height is more, then the standard deviation value will be small, and if the height is less, then standard deviation value will be large. Coming on to the next part, which is central limit theorem, which states that the sampling distribution of the mean of any independent random variable will be normal or nearly normal if the sample size is large enough. So what does it mean? It means mean of samples will be equal to mean of population. That's the only thing central limit theorem indicates. So basically, central limit theorem is telling us that after calculating the mean of a population and of a sample, their values should be equal to or nearly equal to each other. Okay. So that's all for today's lecture. We would be continuing with next topic of the same unit, which is again a very important topic, ANOVA, in our next lecture. Thank you, students.